All right, welcome to the Peak Performance Hormone and Peptide Podcast. I am Justin Bucky, and here with my co-host.
My name is Carlos Alejandro Cepeda III, and I'm here to tell you a very good amount of information about hormones and peptides.
I can't vouch for you.
No, I'm DT Roth, and we're going to get this party started. It's our third podcast. It's going pretty well. We've covered a lot of different types of subjects, and I think today is going to be the one that a lot of people like because you're answering questions from your TikTok. Yes. Not only from your TikTok, but probably from just in general of questions of what people ask. Social, emails, etc. Yeah. So I think that's really good. I think when these questions come through, we have to look at, are the questions being directed in a way of to an individual of, hey, is this going to work for me, right? That's kind of always the biggest question. If I take 200 milligrams of testosterone, what am I going to expect?
That's a good question.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know. And I think once we look at the long-term, not the long-term side effects, but long-term things that happen to people, everyone, it's dose dependent, it's person to person, right? Right.
We don't know what the person's goals are. We don't know what their symptoms are. We don't know where their ranges or where their lab values came out at. So it's really hard when people say, what's optimal for me or what's the best thing I should use. I don't have enough background info to answer that. So we're going to try to answer and give you some bases and different points to consider, but without the proper information, it makes it very difficult.
Right.
So, that being said, I don't want to come across as being, short or anything. Yeah. It's just, there's no one size fits all approach.
No. And I think one of the things that you're starting to get better at this is answering your TikTok comments and your DMs. So that's kind of the first question, right?
Yeah, so I did want to touch on that. We appreciate all of the traffic support. Please don't take it personal. If I don't get back to you in the DMs, by the time I get through, I'll call it one scroll of DMs, the inbox is already filled back up. And then mix in there all of the spam, mix in there all of the 16-year-old, 14-year-old kids who think they have low T. Right. It's just a lot to keep up with. And on top of that, obviously we have to take care of our paying clients. Those are how we're able to do this, which we appreciate them very much. And we appreciate you guys. So please don't be offended. I'm going to try my best to be as active and interactive as possible. But there's only so many hours in the day.
I think people think we're just doing social media and just...
No, I mean, I don't want to, realistically, we could hire somebody, but then it's not authentic.
No, not at all.
So today, we're going to do Q&A.
That question, we're doing Q&A. I was just looking at the second one, how to optimize test levels if you're sensitive to gyno issues without lowering your test dose.
So there's a lot that goes into that. Number one, you could try changing the type of testosterone you're on. Let's say you're using cypionate, consider a nanthate. It's not really drastically different than cypionate, but people respond differently to everything. So the only way to really know is try. You could go to test cream. You could go to test propionate. You could change the way that you're dosing it. I've had some people who were dosing it once per week. And when we switched them to, say they're doing 300 milligrams a week, when we divide their dose up on a Monday, Thursday, or say a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to make it as even as possible, that was able to get their hormonal fluctuations under control, which in turn then helped to combat the gyno issue. And then last but not least, you use an AI if that's the last resort. But the reason that you don't want to do that is because you lose all the protective values and benefits of estrogen, which has been used to treat prostate cancer for over 50 years. So take testosterone, you're not only going to feel better, but your body's more protected.
I think the easiest way to actually answer this is get it cut out.
The gyno?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really easy, but yeah.
But that
would take care of it long term.
Yeah, that would be the number one thing if you're sensitive to gyno issues. Instead of taking AI or switching your test or lowering your test, get it cut out.
Yeah, if that's an option for you, absolutely.
That's in a theory. I started thinking about just get the shit cut out.
Yeah, because high estrogen not only is protective for the prostate, but I mean, if you lower it too much, you're going to crush your sex drive. Your body can feel achy and brittle. It's bad for your lipid profile. Yeah. These drugs are not meant to be run year round or long term. They're anti-cancer medications.
Right.
On top of that, you get all these protective benefits, so you don't want to lower the protective benefits if you have an option to do something where you can get the protective benefits and still feel great.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that kind of takes care of the second question, are AI sustainable long-term use?
You only really want to use them
if you're having an issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. So, and then you use them for the shortest amount of period possible, the shortest time period possible, the lowest dose.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize if you were to use like 0.25 milligrams of a Arimidex or an Anastrozole, same difference. Sure. It can lower your estrogen levels 50 to 75 points each time you take it. So when you're taking a milligram 2 or 3 times a week, it's way overkill. And what ends up happening is you will actually suppress your estrogen level so low that when you stop taking it, you'll get an estrogen rebound where it will spike through the roof, and then your gyno symptoms will come back again. So you really want to try to do everything possible to get it as steady as possible, using or not using an AI if possible,
right?
And then use it as a last resort if you have to.
That's a good one. Should I talk to my doctor about running trend with my TRT?
Well,
I would love to just say this. If you're going to ask about running trend with your TRT, then I don't think you know about trend.
And I don't think it's TRT anymore.
Right. No, you're definitely fucking cycling.
You're on Tren RT.
Yeah, it's Tren RT, like the TRX, fucking the Dodge. I think that's so that question right there is probably one of the largest questions that we get.
Absolutely.
Listen, I can't say that I'm against doing certain things because I bodybuild, right? Being serious.
Yep.
If you are looking for TRT, don't run trend.
Right.
It's not, I don't know, man. I don't know where this got so popular.
I don't know.
I really don't.
So quick side note, speaking of how popular it got, I was in a pool in Hawaii last year, and this 15, maybe 16-year-old, no older than a 16-year-old kid came up to me and was talking to me about hormones and how his friends in, I want to say 9th grade, they couldn't, I know for sure they couldn't drive cars, so they weren't 16, were all using Tren, which, I mean, that is literally the most toxic compound that I'm aware of. Yeah, there's a couple others I could name, but in the grand scheme of things, there's absolutely no reason to be running anything like that when you're 15, 16 years old.
No. Or
in general.
Right, yeah, in general, if you're trying to really do this for a healthy longevity approach.
Absolutely.
The fourth question, 400 test and 200 deca seems to work well.
So it's a solid statement. So what I would say to that is if it works well for you and your lab work comes back in the healthy, optimal range, you're not getting any negative side effects, then go ahead and do it.
Right. Yeah, so...
But also it boils down to what are your goals and do you need to use that much? Is that where you feel good at? It's, again, like where you're going to feel good?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't know where they start to... The numbers, right?
Right.
So these fictitious numbers are like... how can you look at like a prescribed, like, oh, you have to take 200 deca with 400 tests. There's never been a study on that cycle in 100 people. If you did that, you would get X, Y, and Z. Like they do with medications and stuff. You know how they do like trial runs and stuff. Everyone's different. That might be too much for somebody.
Right, absolutely.
I know somebody, Nick Antico. I'll put out his name because I don't give a shit and I hope to get views for this. No. So Nick, he can't do 400 tests.
Yeah.
He's like, my blood pressure goes up, this and that. 200 deca, the kid might have a stroke. So it depends on the person. For me, 400 tests, 200 deca, I'm like, oh, that's like a hangout cycle.
Nick, please don't have a stroke.
Yeah. So yeah, dose dependent. This is a really good one that we get this a lot because of the content that you put out for the oxandrolone is, what about an Anavar or oxandrolone only cycle?
The reason you don't want to do that is you're going to shut down your natural testosterone production. It's going to it's going to mess up your entire lipid profile. Actually, we were just talking about this on the way in here. Oxandrolone is safe and effective as it is, still can cause nasty side effects. It lowers your HDL, which is your good cholesterol. So you do want to use testosterone with it because you don't want to shut down your natural testosterone production. Well, testosterone taking it exogenously is going to shut it down anyway. But testosterone is very protective for you. So when used responsibly at, getting your levels into the optimal range is going to be protective and help to mitigate some of those side effects or risk factors.
Do you know that anything you say is going to be ripped apart?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So again, none of this is set in stone, you guys. That's why it's very hard to answer. It's, typically we start with somebody and then we titrate their doses based on how their lab work is coming back, how their symptoms are being alleviated, just the overall progress of their program.
Yeah.
So again, it comes down to, it's very difficult to say because what you would use and what I would use would be completely different numbers.
100%. And I think with the Anavar only cycle, I'll keep going back to this type of statement. If you're doing Anavar by itself, then you don't know what it's used for, and you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Yes, these are questions because people hear it on Reddit or a blog somewhere or forums.
Personally, if you're truly doing this for longevity purposes, I try to avoid orals at all costs because they are hard on your liver, they're hard on your kidneys, they mess with your lipid profiles, a whole plethora of stuff. So if your goal is longevity, don't jump the gun. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So you really need to be proactive and take the time to research what you're going to take with your therapy.
Now, I do have to say this. If you've been on TRT for a while, you're kind of a seasoned vet to TRT. Oh, excuse me. Jesus Christ. Prime. Sponsors podcast. If you're a seasoned vet to that and you want to kind of step it up, Anavar or oxandrolone, well, I try to keep the terms, is a good tool to the tool belt in a proper dose, in a lower dose, I would say, for X amount of weeks.
Sure, and there needs to be a reason. Like you can't just hop on oxandrolone. Right. You need to have a post-surgery goal. Sure. Or I'm sorry, a post-surgery recovery goal. Weight loss. You can't just say I want oxandrolone, so give it to me.
Right. Yeah.
It needs to be medical necessity.
Well, that's the best part when a new person comes by or comes into our clinic, and they're like, yeah, I'm just really interested in oxandrolone. You're like, it's not how this works.
Right.
We're
trying to keep it here happy, healthy, and horny for the long haul. And if we put people on Anavar only therapies, that's not going to keep you happy, healthy, and horny. So we would be doing ourselves a massive disservice if we did that.
My phone was just vibrating, and I'm gonna go into this. My phone was just vibrating from somebody that was a patient a long time ago, and they contacted me last night and said this: "Hey DT, I'm looking for a cycle. Do you guys provide Tren?" That was literally the text, and now they're calling. Kind of crazy. No, we don't provide Tren again. Now, peptides and liver fibrosis. I said that correct. Is it dangerous to take peptides with liver fibrosis?
So I'm never going to say never to much of anything. Right. But there are some peptides that are, absolutely fantastic for things like that. So unfortunately, since we can't get thymosin alpha-1, that would have been one that I would have said look into. BPC would be another. And since you have liver issues or liver fibrosis, I would, most of the time I recommend BPC injections just because, it's going to be the most cost effective for the long haul.
Yeah.
But with liver fibrosis, looking into taking oral BPC might help with any of the issues you're dealing with and complications with that.
I'm unfamiliar with that, so I really can't say. I know it's a liver issue.
And again, it's also going to be dependent on, I don't know the medications they're on. I don't know any of the background, but there are certain things that could potentially help them, like thymosin alpha-1, BPC.
Glutathione help?
Glutathione would be fantastic. Yeah. And obviously the risk to reward. Glutathione's a fantastic antioxidant. So glutathione I recommend to anybody who wants to be as healthy as possible.
Still kind of hurts.
It's got a little bite to it.
I'm just sensitive.
I find actually if you are using glutathione, you're sensitive.
I'm really sensitive. I'm sensitive in a lot of ways.
I find if you're using glutathione, it does have a little bite to it no matter which compound pharmacy you use. Our pharmacy does a great job making it preservative free, so it's got less of a bite to it. It still does have a little kick to it. So diluting it with another, say you have B12, you have a B12 injectable, diluting it with that, or even just sterile BA water does help to cut down on that. I also find that injecting it intramuscular doesn't feel as much like you're injecting bee stingers as when you do it subcutaneously.
Yeah, so that's what I do. I do sub-Q.
You do it sub-Q?
Yeah, and when I started doing actually is in the morning. Not recent. It's like an off and on thing. I need to get better at it. I'll do my BPC, I'll do my growth hormone, and then I'll do a glutathione with it.
Yeah.
Just to kind of mix it up. But then like sometimes you'll get that big well and you're like, oh, geez, this is it's gonna take all day for this. So, but glutathione, I've had a lot of patients with their livers.
Yes.
I think if you are running any type of oral, you should definitely take glutathione with that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people are not aware that if you are taking an oral, it's going to stress your liver. Yeah. And they use NAC in the hospital for acetaminophen poisoning. Now, NAC is the precursor by, there's another, how do I explain this? NAC was called a precursor to glutathione without getting too much in depth.
Someone's going to say it. So someone's going
to someone's going to call it. I don't care. Glutathione does not absorb in the body well when taken orally, but injectable is very effective. So if you're using an oral hormone, that would be a great way to avoid the liver stress or help to combat any stress to the body.
That's they're trying to take NAC off.
Yeah,
Michelle,
NAC.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So we're here. I feel like we can kind of jump around a little bit if you want.
Absolutely.
I'm marking them off. So, sorry. What about, this is perfect. What about EQ only?
So this goes back to the testosterone is the base of everything for not only how you're going to feel, but your overall health. Right. Pretty much any anabolic hormone is going to shut down your natural hormone production, your testosterone production. So that goes for tren, EQ, Anavar, Nandrolone or DECA for short. Any of these hormones are going to shut down your testosterone production. There was a lot of information floating around a few years ago, even with SARMs. SARMs are going to shut down your hormone production, contrary to the information people were putting out. So I would avoid SARMs at pretty much all costs because there's not many, if any, medical studies done on them. They were actually done on rats. But in the medical studies, it's pretty much impossible to know that because when they refer to the test subjects, they refer to them as test subjects. They don't say these are rats.
Right, yeah.
Or the participants, they were rats.
Participants that failed the study.
Yeah, so there really hasn't been a lot of research done on SARMs on human beings that I'm aware of. And, when you've got hormones that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years, they're tried and true, and you know what the risk to reward is, and you know what the potential side effects are. These SARMs, you really don't know what the side effects are. So I always say, there's no reason to jump to something that could be risky and cause long-term issues when you've got these other hormones available, or even these peptides that have been used for a while. Peptides are newer, obviously, but they've been around for a while, and there's a lot more research done on them. So just be smart with what you're doing.
Yeah, being smart. I think being smart, leaving that, is going to come into this next question.
Here we go.
Yes. If you're listening to this, please. You scared me in one video.
Oh, God.
I'm 41 years old. I am 5'9", 170 pounds. Running test for only 12 years. Okay. I recently started doing this cycle. Daily. 25 milligrams of Winstrol, 25 milligrams of D-ball, 25 milligrams of Anavar. Tuesday and Friday, I inject 350 of Sustanon, 200 MPP, 100 mass, and 100 tren. So it looks like, breaking it down, he's doing 525 milligrams of orals per week. This person's doing 1,900 of injectable oils for a total of I just butchered that. Sorry, I was reading. 2,425 milligrams. See what happens when I cannot read and start to think. So this guy is running 2,400, let's just say, milligrams per week. Myself, in my highest taking of things, that would be mostly pre-contest. Mm-hmm. I'm probably up to 1,500, and I'll give a little more to say 2,000 at the end when you're doing all the orals and so on and so forth. For an off season, I can't see myself going over 1,000 at all. And
that would be say 400 testosterone, 300 nandrolone, 50 milligrams of Anavar, for example.
That
would put you around 1,000.
So, I don't know.
I know what I would say to this. I obviously did not scare you enough because if you're taking 3 orals, that's absolutely number one. You're 170 pounds.
Let's do this.
Yeah,
I want you to break down, and I'll join along with it. For you to take Winstrol, D-ball, and Anavar, I honestly don't know what your goal is right there.
Right. And I don't know what it is either. And we also don't know your background. We don't know a lot of info. But I can tell you that if you're 170 pounds, there is absolutely no reason that you should be running 2,500 milligrams of stuff per week.
No.
If you can't grow, then that tells me that either your diet's not on point, your recovery's not on point, which is going to be your sleep, or that your nutrient intake is not on point. You know, people always think when they stop making gains or results that they should just take more stuff. And a lot of times that should be a clear indicator that something is going on either with your training, with your diet, and with your recovery.
For sure.
You know, adding more is not the answer. You should be looking at what you're doing and why you stopped making progress.
Dude, 100%. I mean,
I can tell you, you're going to be on the express lane to open heart surgery, kidney, liver transplant, you name it, if you stay on that. I have no idea what you've done in the past 12 years, but you don't need to ever do anything to this extent, especially if you're just trying to be healthy and look good.
That's
astronomical.
So I think the one thing that I would say looking at what he gave you, he's been taking testosterone for 12 years, right?
Right.
Straight. Perfect. Okay, you're taking TRT. I'm just going to give you TRT.
Yep.
And it looks like he wanted to bump up. He's 41 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to do as a 41-year-old? I think you get to a certain age sometimes. I'm pointed to you. I think you get to a certain age sometimes, and I think you need something new. I would say if he was competing back in the day or living this lifestyle and doing certain stuff like this for 12 years, he probably wouldn't do this at 41 years old.
No.
Due to what you'd have to do to mitigate all the risk and potential, all the threats later on.
Yes.
Looking at the injectable, and I want to kind of drive this home because this is going to be a little longer talk, but like it's 700 sus. Okay.
And for those who don't know, Sustanon is just a 4 different types of testosterone from fast acting to long acting.
I want to say I've never seen 350, just to throw it out there.
UG.
Yeah, but it's probably 250. Just say that. So you have that, and then 400 mass, 400 tren, and 400 of MPP. I've seen people do the MPP and Mastron together. This is me personally. I don't know why you would take tren and MPP together.
I don't know. They're both progestins, number one. And number two, injecting them only twice per week doesn't make a lot of sense because the half-life on them is much shorter. So you'd want to do them at the very least, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But at the same time, I wouldn't use those either.
No. Yeah, so this is a very interesting case. And honestly, a lot of people ask us this more than usual. I get a lot of DMs on my Instagram, not TikTok, because your TikTok is huge, around type of stuff like this. Never this much, though.
Right.
And it's a lot of kids. And this will bring me to this question. What are your thoughts on 500 testosterone for a 17-year-old, right? So my thoughts are this. When I was 18, my testosterone, I remember to the day, I went to an endocrinologist. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Endocrinologist.
I can't say those big words. My testosterone was 318. Now I took pro hormones back in the day. I was overweight, but right there, I was fine. I was in normal. I was good. And as we talked on our first podcast, that's not where you should be. Now, on a logical stance, 500 testosterone level for 17, that's low. You know.
Where's that question?
Oh, it's the third one on the second page. Yeah.
Okay.
Right there. So, I mean.
Well, first off, I don't know. Is he talking about taking 500 milligrams of testosterone, or is testosterone total in his bloodstream is 500?
What are your thoughts on 500 testosterone level at 17? So his testosterone level is 500.
Okay.
At 17.
So, again, what's really important is not necessarily your total testosterone, but your free testosterone. Right. How much is available to be used or not bound up by blood proteins, which are referred to as SHBG, or sex hormone binding globulin.
Which we talked about. Yep.
So free testosterone is the king. So total doesn't mean a whole lot, but let's just assume that your free testosterone is mediocre. We'll call it middle of the road, and your total testosterone is middle of the road. Right. At 17, let's look at what else you could do to bring that up. And, I don't necessarily think that you need to hop on anything. I don't think you should. You go see an endocrinologist. They're probably going to recommend something, if they recommend anything at all, Most will tell you that's normal, you're fine, but they might say Clomid or HCG or potentially both.
Right.
But at 17, you're going to be hard up to find a doctor who's going to want to prescribe you anything.
Yeah, no, that's the truth. I mean, I know when I was around that age, I was going to GNC, and I know you have to be 18 technically to buy things. You know, nowadays.
That,
yeah, you actually do. It's kind of crazy. But I think with this, I mean, are you active? Are you overweight? Have you been playing Fortnite for too damn long? Like, are you playing Halo? You know, Halo's our kind of generation, but what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things, inactivity, sitting on your damn phones.
Sure.
You know, we can go on and on about that, right? And I think it's just at 17,
get on a regular training program, you know, get on a diet program and then test yourself again in 6 months. And odds are you'll probably see that number climb up. Now, there's not a lot that you're going to do to go from 500 to say, let's go 1,200. But if you're significantly overweight and you're not sleeping right and you're not eating right, you can get a pretty big spike or increase in your natural testosterone production at 17. So you wouldn't want to mess with that because you're just going to suppress it.
I mean,
the longer you wait, the better off you're going to be because you want to build that base foundation before you really just – most people are too impatient. They want to jump on stuff because they're going to the gym, when in reality, you should really build the base foundation before you ever do that.
For sure. I would say this.
Sell yourself short.
Yeah, no, if you're that young, dude, think about when you're young.
Yep.
I was staying up late, was barely getting sleep. I barely ate, and I was still fat playing football. I don't know how it happened. Just go talk to your dad. That's what I have to say to you. Let's see. I'm kind of scanning right now. Does anything stick out to you that you want to kind of go with? I mean, we have a lot of questions here. I mean, I want this one. Reason why I want this question is because Nick Antico, I'm going to throw his bastard on the fucking bus again, scared me by taking ibuprofen. He says, if you take ibuprofen, you're not going to gain muscle because due to the inflammation, you need inflammation while you train for post-recovery. You need that inflammation for the recovery factor, right? Or, you know what I mean? So, do opiate pain medications block testosterone absorption and vice versa?
So opiate pain medications do not necessarily block testosterone absorption, but they do lower your testosterone production or output. So it is going to hinder your overall progress or results. You really want to get off that as quick as possible if you are able to. That's meant to be used for short term, obviously. So, I mean, the shit, look how many people it kills. So
yeah, I think I think it could lower testosterone.
It can lower your natural production.
Yeah, like 100%. So, right? So if you're...
It's known to do that.
Yeah. Even smoking weed, I heard, actually does that. It creates gyno. Well. I don't know where they came up with that, but
probably because you mass eat and
fucking binge.
No, it definitely does not help your overall hormone production. Actually, I've seen things that it actually can lower thyroid production.
Right.
So in the overall scheme of things, if you're trying to be as healthy as possible, try to get off that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand going through a surgery or you hurt your back or something along those lines. I think with that type of stuff, I just... The ibuprofen shit has weirded me out, you know?
Yes. And that even ibuprofen will slow your muscle recovery. So you don't necessarily want to use that unless you absolutely have to.
Right.
You know, and NSAIDs or corticosteroids absolutely will hinder your progress.
Yeah, we're talking about that earlier. Cold plunge. Try that. Or ice.
Actually, have you seen some of the studies from the cold plunge stuff? Pretty crazy with testosterone and growth hormone. I don't know how long it stays up that high, but you do get pretty good spikes from a few studies I've seen. Now, I don't think it's going to put you up in, say, 1,800 total testosterone all day long. But there has been some studies that show pretty impressive spikes.
Really?
Yeah, or peaks right after you do it.
I've noticed I've been cold plunging, I think, since the first podcast. I used to pee about 4 times a night. I think I'm down to 1. So I've been sleeping better. I also have a sleep apnea mask that I don't use. That's another story. But I think the cold plunge is helping my sleep. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Also, my knees. So my knees, everyone's like, oh, inflammation. My knees have actually felt worse lately. I don't know if it's probably not because of the cold plunge, but the cold plunge actually has not helped my knees what I thought it was going to be. So I'm just giving my feedback on that. I feel better throughout the day.
Yep.
I feel like it's helped me in some areas. Do I think it helped me with burning fat? I don't think so, man. That brown fat shit that they talk about, I can't buy into it.
It's hard because you can't really measure it that easily.
No.
So it's all going to be based on your perspective. But
Right.
The sleep thing makes absolute sense because it does increase growth hormone production. So growth hormone does help increase quality of sleep, and also it. What were we talking about?
Cold plunge.
Cold plunge. Oh, it'll help regulate your central nervous system. So if you're somebody who suffers from a lot of stress or anxiety, definitely start giving that a try. It really forces you to pay attention to your breathing and focus on that and how you're feeling inside. Because if you don't, I can tell you the first time I did it, I barely made a minute because I thought I was going to hyperventilate and pass out. But then after you realize it's all about the breathing, you start really focusing in on that. So absolutely, that can help with the quality of sleep. I've done it in the morning, and I felt great all day too. I need to get back into it after my surgery. I didn't do it because I was being a baby.
Yeah, no, you don't have a particular cold plunge you like, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't either. So
we need one.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to
sponsor
it. I'll start fucking asking for sponsors in this thing. Perfect. So I would say that I'm scanning. Oh,
I like this one.
which one do you want?
For guys trying to get cut and not put on weight, is 200 milligrams of test per week and being in a calorie deficit a good plan? Let's just assume their diet is on point.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, optimization, right?
Yep. That's enough to spare the muscle. So typically when people are dieting, that's the hardest time to maintain muscle mass. So, using 200 milligrams of testosterone, you're still going to be in an anabolic state. So you're going to be pro or positive to retain that muscle, but you're not doing anything stupid or reckless. The one thing I would say is potentially look into spreading that dose out into 100. So like a Monday, Thursday, you split your dose up, because that will help you avoid the peaks and valleys or the highs and lows. Right. So if you do a Monday, Thursday, typically if you were doing a Monday once a week injection, you'd get this real high peak and then back down, and then you do your next injection. So you get these peaks and valleys. If you split up your dose, it'll keep your levels much steadier across the week. Yeah.
It's also too, it's hard because the simple answer is yes. Yeah. And then you're like, well, how hard are you training? Right. Are you overtraining? And I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like there's so many, are you doing too much cardio? It's like,
that's what I say. Just consider, let's say they have the perfect diet. Then that's, there's a lot of big guys who can maintain the muscle mass that they built over the years just by doing low dose therapy year round. I
think when you add the muscle and you get the muscle on, you're less likely to lose it as you get older from the muscle maturity.
Sure.
A lot of people have said this, and I was kind of thinking about this when I was younger. People would say, when you get older, you're not going to have to work so hard. And I never understood what that is. And I think what the thought process was, once you achieve all that muscle, like once you get big legs, you don't have to really squat any longer, right? So it's like there's like certain, like, when's the last time you squat? I haven't squatted in years. I haven't flat benched in years. There's like certain movements that you do as a young adult to build that base. I don't know really where I'm going with that, but I feel like it's just as you get older, you don't need as much.
And to each their own. Doing squats isn't necessarily going to be what I need, but it might work great for you. It's going to be also based on body mechanics and what your goals are, et cetera. But in the grand scheme of things, you don't have to squat for big legs. You can leg press. You can hack squat. There's a million things you can do.
Right.
So if you're somebody who hates squatting, then find something you love, because you're not going to stick with it if you're doing things that you don't enjoy.
No.
That being said, I'm not saying to take the easy road and go do leg extensions only, which aren't that easy. You can make them burn out. But, find what you enjoy, because that's how you're going to create the habit and stick with it long term.
No, for sure. I agree.
Kind of off on a tangent.
No, I know. So this is going to happen with these fucking podcasts. Okay. So, very good question. How do I go about getting labs from a Lifexmd? Let's go there.
Very great question. I get that one daily. So you can go right to our website, www.lifexmd.com. In the upper right corner, there is a tab called Get Started Now. You fill out the health history questionnaire on there. You can do it on your phone or your computer. Mm-hmm. And the next prompt will be, if you would like to purchase labs, you can click here and then purchase them for the year, as well as your physician consultation. If you want to do a consult with one of us before purchasing your labs, you absolutely are welcome to do so. We just need the health history form filled out so we can get much more in depth with you. Like we're talking about with some of these questions, we can't give you straightforward answers, because it's not to say that 200 milligrams of test is going to be for everybody across the board.
No.
So we need to know more background info, and that health history form helps us understand how you currently feel, what you want to get out of a program, what your goals are, any background information that would help us help you, versus just going over, here's what testosterone does, here's what thyroid does, DHEA, et cetera.
I don't feel like spending my time explaining every single thing either after a certain while. Because you know what? Because you're not going to listen.
Yeah.
You're going to take the pieces and parts that you want to. I mean, you're going to, attention span. My attention span's, after a while you start to look around and you're like, okay,
But it's nice to be able to talk to them about what they actually want to get out of the program and what's going to be important to them.
The goal of what people are looking for. And that kind of goes to, it's not a question that you have here, actually. It's a question that you get a lot on your TikTok, and I'm kind of sick of seeing it. Where can I buy this stuff? Where do I go? What do I do? I mean, you're putting out this information, so am I, and you're still getting these questions of like, where do I go to buy these peptides, or how can I get started? It's like, dude, I mean,
So first, we're not a mail order pharmacy. You can't just contact us and we'll just ship you it. You need to have medical necessity. We do labs, figure out where, again, like I said, what's going on, where your values currently are, and then we'll let you know what's considered optimal and discuss with you what we need to do to get you from where you currently are to where you want to be in your ideal situation. So go on to the website, fill out the health history form, and that's how you get started with the consult with us. And from there, we'll walk you through the steps.
You guys hear that? All right, good.
Website.
I feel like we covered a lot here.
We have.
I like that. There's a few things that I kind of want to leave for our next one, to be honest with you. That's going from health supplements down. Okay. So I want to leave that because I want to work on that with you. I guess
this podcast has been much like my ADHD, all over the place.
It's good. It fits. I think, McKay, how are we doing? All right. I might start adding McKay into this podcast. Give him a mic. Try to turn this thing around. You know what I mean? Yeah, I can plug in a mic. Oh, man. McKay got it. McKay can do it. I'll talk to you guys about Halo. Going off topic, what's the stuff that you've been seeing lately in the industry? I think, is there anything new out there? What's going on with the peptides? Have you heard anything?
So what's going on with the peptides? I honestly have not heard anything new. I've heard of a few research companies let's talk on that. Mm-hmm. A few research companies getting visits or letters or potentially have issues. But as far as what's going to happen in the future with peptides, I have no clue. And it seems like everyone else in the industry doesn't have a lot of background information either. Depending on who you talk to, there's nothing available to everything's still available. So
no, it's
so all over the place. It makes it really difficult, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel bad sometimes when I'm like, because when people contact us and our clients or patients, they say, "Hey, man, do you guys still have BPC?" I'm like, "Well, the pharmacy still does, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know when or
like they could make it until they're out of inventory. They could continue until they get told to stop.
Right.
We really don't know, and we don't know.
Yeah, I know.
There's no straightforward info out there, other than the only thing we can tell you is the information that you can find right on the FDA's website is that peptides are on the do not compound list. So stop compounding them, and they will not be available long term.
Yeah, and oxandrolone is still available.
Oxandrolone is still available compounded through only one vendor that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's a couple in the country, but the main issue is it's not being made as a brand name medication or even a generic anymore. So a lot of the raw material suppliers are not supplying it anymore. So until one of the raw material suppliers steps up, there's going to be a drought or a backlog to find it or to get it filled. But I have talked to a few people in the compound pharmacy industry, and they don't think this is going to be forever. They're just waiting for somebody to pick it up and start offering it again.
Yeah.
So compound in the future, it should hopefully loosen up and become more readily available again. It's just, there's going to be a lag until somebody in the raw material industry picks it up and starts supplying it to the pharmacies. Man. Because the main ones that were supplying it are no longer.
Yeah. It's weird how it's like brand generic, and I don't know. I think it comes to the point, it's like right now, I think in the HRT, TRT, whatever you want to call it, industry, there is a lot of unknowns right now.
Yes, there is.
And that kind of what we've talked about, it creates this kind of a cloud or shadow effect upon our business, because we're still like we're doing everything that we still do, but also that can change at any day.
Right.
So kind of going down the road of like where we're going to go, and you were talking about it, creating different packages, doing different things. I mean, the New Year's is coming around. I know we're going to have some type of like weight loss package or something.
Let's touch on that in 1 sec. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt
you.
you.
No,
while we're still on the peptide topic, I've gotten a lot of comments about LMAO. I still get them all. Go to a research company, or black market is cranking. Yeah, I can tell you that I've tried research in the past, and I can tell you if I bought them from 20 different research companies, honestly, I'm lucky if one of them was mediocre to good. I can tell you that once you go to pharmacy compounded quality, number one, you know what you're putting in your body. You know that it matches the label because they actually lab test it, and they have a lot on the line, millions of dollars they could lose if they didn't do that. Number two, the quality. The quality doesn't, like, for example, LR3, IGF-1, that's the biggest one I can tell you. If you try pharmacy compound version and then you compare it to research, they are not on the same level at all. And I'm not saying that so people will go and buy it.
No. Yeah.
I've tried it so many times over the years, and I've never gotten anything close to the quality that we were able to get from the pharmacy. It blows everything else out of the water. That's why I'm such a huge fan of IGF-1, not because of the research availability, but because of the quality that we got from the pharmacy. There was nothing that I've used before from any of the research companies that were the same quality as what we've got right now.
I think if people will save their $90 for a few months, and then buy one of the pharmaceutical grade, all that time that you're taking something of research, it would just work with the one bottle you take.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even say from us. I would just say from a pharmaceutical company.
And what I found also is you can use significantly less because the quality of this is so much better.
Right.
So it really stretches out a lot longer.
I'll tell you what, it's kind of like taking underground testosterone and pharmaceutical testosterone. I have been, for a long time, under the age of 30, because I'm only 33. So, and I was taking underground stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I can tell you that when I started taking pharmaceutical grade testosterone, I had to take a lot less, and I believe that I saw a lot more. And my levels were a lot higher.
Sure.
So in the past 3 years, my blood work has looked a lot better, I would say. And I think that's just quality over quantity, or you get what you pay for. Those dumb sayings, as you're young, you really don't understand it. But you could buy $50 for a bottle of tests, or you could spend $150 for a bottle of tests. I would go where you know what it is and where you're going to get it.
What's your overall health and your body's worth to you. Know what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, it hurts less. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and honestly, one of my best friends is an orthopedic surgeon. And he texted me one day. He's like, "This shit's great." He's like, "I can use half of what I was using before and still feel exactly the same."
Absolutely.
So,
and that kind of goes to like less. I wouldn't say less is more,
but it really is, and
it is. I mean, you got to look at this, and this is we're having this conversation walking in. I think there's a threshold on taking testosterone from a certain milligram to a milligram.
Absolutely.
Right? And I'm just going to throw out these numbers because they're my own, and this is my opinion. When I run 400 to 600, I can't really tell you there's a huge difference. Right. If I ran 400 to 800, there probably would be a little difference. Anything over that, I think, is from my point of view, diminishing return of it. Nothing's going to happen, right? And and I say nothing's going to happen. You're not going to feel anything.
Right.
Would your numbers go up? Maybe if your body, it's like there's like absorption rate, or what are you taking everything in? What are you doing?
Right. How sensitive are your receptor sites? Like I can tell you in the years that I used to compete, I just sucked at it. But I can tell you in the years I tried taking a lot of stuff before because I thought that was the key. Like that's why I'm trying to help a lot of you younger guys out. More is not better, but I've tried to take a lot of stuff, and the only thing that it did was actually crush my appetite, kill my libido, make me feel lethargic and tired, bloated. So I honestly feel better at 3 or even 400 milligrams on the higher end for me. Okay. When I go over 400, I don't notice a whole heck of a lot.
Really?
I don't notice, except for more water retention.
Yeah.
And honestly, then again, yes, you're going to get potentially more gains up at 800, but you get into the risk to reward. Yeah. What are you potentially risking, and what are the rewards you're going to get, and what is your life and your health worth to you?
This is going to sound crazy or whatnot, but I actually feel very good at 600.
Yeah.
That's my honestly, I feel like that's my high point of like, that's all I'm going to go. That's how I feel good. I don't feel toxic. My blood work, everything looks good. I know some people might be like, that's really high.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what anyone else says. Honestly, I could give two fucks at this point. And it's person to person, like we've been talking about.
Dr. Ruzia, the doctor we do our training with, is world renowned for training physicians. And, his course is called Mastering the Protocols of Hormone Optimization. And he straight up says that, he's got some men that he uses 600 milligrams a week with because they're older and they have less sensitive receptor sites. So they are going to need more to get the same benefits that they got when they were in their early 30s, we'll call it.
Sure.
Which makes sense, especially if they've been using testosterone for 40 years.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And the reason he does that number, he said that's where they feel good at. They don't have any adverse reactions. Their lab work comes back healthy. Yeah. He checks them throughout the year. And his answer is, if you don't like that number, then don't check it.
I like it.
So you base it all off of what, how the patient's feeling, how their symptoms are being alleviated. Yeah. What is their overall health?
No, for sure. And listen, I know at 33, and I'm bringing it to me because I could talk about myself. Being 33 and doing 600 in bodybuilding, you would understand, okay, I understand why you're doing it. When I'm not doing bodybuilding, I'll probably just go down to 400, and that will be my sticking point. I've been taking things for a lot of years. I've probably really fucked myself up in some way, to be honest. At 200, I probably could go there and do blood work, but I know from past experience, it's not feasible at this point for where I've gone and how much I've taken. So 600 is my top that I go. 400 is the lowest I go. I know it's only 200 make swing, but I feel comfortable and my blood pressure is not high, certain things like that. So I'm just trying to put that information out for people because I'm not telling anyone what they should do. I'm talking about myself, but I know that we're trying to guide people in the right way. And this is whether you are a patient or you're not, like you always say, well, if they're not going to do it the right way, they're going to do it the wrong way and on their own. So why don't we just put out the information so they can maybe digest a little bit and think like this guy.
Learn from where we screwed up and hopefully avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah. Have you ever done something that I wouldn't say regret because everything's a learning experience, but you ever do something or take something that you've been like, oh, I don't need that, or like that didn't really work. I was just taking it to, like, you don't know what's working at a certain point.
Looking back, really, it's a lot harder when you're in that moment, we'll call it. But looking back over the years, there's definitely a lot of stuff I would have changed and done differently, or could have, and it definitely would have benefited me long-term health-wise.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things is there's no need to take super high dosage of stuff because you can get great results using low dosages. And especially, I was never trying to be a professional bodybuilder or a professional athlete of any type. So there's no reason to push your body to the limit there.
Right.
If you want to be around long term.
Sure. I feel like this. I don't know what your thoughts are, and I'm not trying to go on a tangent about cycles and stuff like that because that's not what the podcast is about. But it's just, could you run things at a lower dose for longer?
A lot of that has to do with genetic background. Right. So it's, again, there's no one size fits all.
Right.
But lower, longer versus higher, longer is definitely going to be safer. Right. And lower, longer versus high and short. It's hard to say, but high anything, it just increases your risk of overall side effect.
I know.
So,
I feel
just
like
being patient is the biggest thing.
Yeah, well, time, right?
Yeah, because you can't cheat. You can't cheat time. No matter what you take, your body is going to reach a point that you're only going to grow so fast. And if you don't increase your calories or you don't start increasing your muscle stimulus during training, your body's just going to dwindle off and your progress is going to slow.
That's the one thing this year that I've noticed. At the beginning of the year, I kind of walked away. Yep. And I was like, I got a little high blood pressure. I got to take some care of some stuff. I didn't change much. I actually was on the least amount of stuff this year that I've been on in a very long time. And I grew quality in a sense of just putting on as much size as possible. There was different stimuluses, like you were talking about, for muscle gain. My food wasn't high either. And my body weight's fairly low right now from where I usually are. But I do agree with that. You just cannot cheat time, and taking more is not going to recruit more muscle fibers in a sense of, due to the training, the recovery, taking more rest days.
Right.
It just kind of plays into, I see just a lot of people fucking blasting.
Yeah, super high dosages, and it's not necessary. Honestly, the strongest I ever was after I stopped bodybuilding before I started again. there was I moved and there were some periods where I wasn't training. I was training. So I got back into training, but I started doing, I never competed in strongman, but I started doing some strongman workouts with some friends, and I got on this program 5-3-1, and it's like a push pull legs type program where you're focusing on bench press, squat, deadlift, and I think shoulder press, and just the way that the training was laid out and the rest days, et cetera. For some reason, it absolutely clicked with my body, and that was the strongest I've ever been. 200 milligrams testosterone. It was all about the training, and I was eating enough, obviously, to make gains or progress, but I didn't have a certainly mapped out diet where, it's time to eat this meal, that meal. So I could have made better progress, but at that time I wanted something different because I was burned out from the bodybuilding training and from all that. And honestly, it was good. It gave me a new goal, and it also made training fun and interesting again. So if you get bored, change your training up.
Yeah. Or, man, this is the scary part. Like, what's life after bodybuilding? That's the scary part. How long are you going to body? Actually, someone asked me that. They're like, how long are you going to do this for? I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, of course, staying healthy.
Yep.
I still love it. Staying, I wouldn't say relevant, right? Because that's nothing compared to IG nowadays. You can stay relevant and just not competing. But progressing. If you're not progressing, what are you doing, right? I told him if I could.
If you're not progressing, you're exercising.
Yeah, exactly. So I say like another 5 years. I say 5 years as a handful. That can change. But life after bodybuilding, that's the thing. And I was actually talking to Steph, and I was like, you know what? We're driving to Orlando. Shit drops in your head, as you're driving. I was like, I think boxing after bodybuilding. Because I actually used to box when I was younger.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I boxed for a couple of years, and then I got into football. So I feel like my life has always been like doing something, right? And I think going back to you, like when you stopped bodybuilding, what was your void? How did you fill that? I think you did it with business though, right?
I did it with business, and I thought I hated training. Thought I was over it, but I really just didn't like my ex-wife. I was over that relationship, and gotcha. When I went back to the gym, I realized I actually absolutely love training. I'm going to do this the rest of my life. It was just what I was doing in my life was not making me happy. So it's very important to be able to differentiate those two. Yeah. Otherwise, it can make you miserable. So you're driving crazy.
What you're saying is that some of the gentlemen need to figure out if they like their wives or not.
Marriage is tough. That's all I'll say.
I'm on my second one. That's good. No, I agree. Yeah, just life after bodybuilding. I think a lot of people might struggle with doing that or being a competitor or getting into bodybuilding because they want to do something. I think that's another thing too, right?
There's definitely people who bodybuild and they do it just to make sure that they get themselves in the best shape and health as they can be in, and they're not, doing super physiological dosages or anything. In that case, I think bodybuilding is a great long-term or short-term goal, depending on when your show is, but it's you're picking a date and holding yourself accountable.
Going to that, I know when I step on stage and I see the people that are bodybuilding for fun.
Sure.
Just like, you motherfucker here. You just another person here. But looking at it as an outsider, a lot of people have different goals. Maybe their goal is not to win. Maybe they had a fitness journey that they lost a bunch of weight on. Sure. So bodybuilding is a community of supposed to be support, no ego. But as we know, it's a fucking ego-driven.
I'll say I'm happy that it's changed a lot from the time that I did it. Yeah. Like the guys now are, they push each other, and it makes it a lot more fun to watch. Back when I was doing it, I'm 39 now. When I was doing it, there was, and it still goes on, but there was so much shit talking and backstabbing going on, and it really made me have a bad taste in my mouth for it. So the direction that it's changed in like the last 8 or 10 years, I'm really happy about. Like I didn't follow it for a long time because I was over it. And now the group of guys who are call them the top 10 competitors, they're a lot of fun to watch, and they're pretty much all friends with each other. They get along, and they motivate each other, and I think it's great.
I mean, and in theory, you're competing against everybody,
right?
But also, you can only control the outcome that you can only control yourself on the outcome,
right?
So, are you really competing against anyone else, or are you really competing against the time and the outcome that you can provide?
So you're competing to be the best version of yourself.
Exactly.
When you're up at that level.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's anything. I mean, in life, right? If you think about work and business, and you're just competing against, other companies, but you're competing against be the best company that you could provide and what you could do. So it's all about worrying about yourself, and who gives a shit what everyone else is doing.
Right.
So that's pretty much where I got. Okay, what's the time?
54. All right. Well, I think we're about done.
Yeah, let's wrap this thing up.
I think we about did it.
I think we about done it right here on this mobile. Yeah.
All right. So that being said, we appreciate you guys all very much. Please leave comments in the comment section, and we'll be happy to answer them. I will do my best to be as interactive as possible. And if you guys do want to become a patient, the best way to go about doing that is not DMing us. It's actually just contacting us at thebusinesslifexmd.com.
Yes.
Or you can email us, support@lifexmd.com, or you can call us on the telephone, 833-LifeXMD. The DMs, they have so much stuff coming in. The messages can get lost, and we don't want to keep you guys waiting. So just contact us directly, please.
Yes.
Have a safe and happy holiday. If you don't hear from us, we hope you have a safe and happy holiday.
Yeah, and if you get too fat, we'll sell you some Lifexmd. Just saying that. All right. Good talk. We'll talk to you.
Thank you guys all.